Good morning and welcome to Conversations with the Artist. I'm Jen Clymer, and we are here with some of the amazing women behind post production for Flamin' Hot. Yay! We're going to go around the horn here and have you guys introduce yourself and tell us what you did on the movie. And Kayla, we'll start with you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kayla Emter, and I was the picture editor on Flamin' Hot.
Yay! Katie?
I'm Katie Halliday. I was the supervising sound editor and sound designer for Flaming Hot.
Wonderful. And then over to Vanessa.
Hi, I'm Vanessa Perry, and I was music supervisor for Flaming Hot.
Yay! So the exciting news is Flamin' Hot is coming to the Susan and Gary Martin screening room on July 11th, not July, June 11th, which is opening weekend. Like we get it right away.
Yeah.
Very exciting. This is a true story and it is very inspirational. I want to know, first of all, how you guys individually signed on and if you knew the story before you signed on. And Vanessa, let's start with you.
I actually did not know the story. When I was told about it, I right away went into some, Google searches and read about the story and read about Richard Montanez and was really excited about it right off the bat. And I kind of followed him on social media and, kind of did a deep dive even before knowing that I would, work on the movie. So it was a really exciting story and I was really excited to be a part of it.
Katie?
I had not actually heard the story either. And to be honest, I had never even tried Flaming Hot Cheetos because I grew up in Canada and I'm sure they had them there, but I don't think they were as available. I grew up on like ketchup chips and stuff like that. But once I knew that the story and I read the script and I looked into it more and I tried Flaming Hot Cheetos, which I ended up eating my weight in over the course of the whole show. It was very exciting and really cool. It felt like a great opportunity to tell a really heartfelt and interesting story. So
Kayla, same to you. Did you know this story ahead of time?
I heard rumblings about it. So when my agent called and said, I know you just finished something. I know you were going to take a little bit of time off, but, Eva Longoria is directing this film about the man who invented the Flaming Hot Cheeto. And I'm like, I'm in. If there's a meeting, I'd love to take it. I'd love the opportunity, and then meeting with Eva was so great and learning more about the story and this man. And, similar to, Vanessa and Katie, I took a deep dive into learning more. Also hadn't tried Flaming Hot Cheetos before the movie. I'm hooked now. And so, yeah, I learned more about it after the fact, but I had heard a little bit ahead of time.
So Vanessa, do you think out of the three of you, I'm assuming like you didn't quickly chime in with, "Oh, I'd never tried Flaming Hot Cheetos."
I honestly never tried them. I love Cheetos. I love regular Cheetos. I just wasn't really into the spicy, and honestly every time I would eat, like the first time I tried them I like choked on them, but now I'm like I really do like them. They're really good.
And so those of you that are like just tuning in, we're talking about Flamin' Hot, which is a movie that Eva Longoria directed and these amazing women brought across the finish line in post-production. I want to know if the fact that, and Kayla, you kind of answered that already. If the fact that Eva was in the helm, in the director's seat, if that made you go, yeah, I got to do this movie.
I mean, absolutely. She's such a force. She's a producer, she's a director, she's an actress, she's an activist. This story, as she says, she was meant to tell this story. And, the more you learn about her upbringing, it's very similar to Richard's upbringing. And so to be a part of this filmmaking team, I was really grateful and humbled to, help tell this story from people who were, very qualified doing it.
Yeah. I think we have a picture of Eva on the set. While we show that, Vanessa, same question to you. Was that the tipping point for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a no-brainer for me. I'm also a Latina, and she was really wanting a lot of female women or Latinos working on her movie. She's very, as Kayla said, she's an activist, and she's very proud, and she really wants to, help and push her community. And for me, it was like a no-brainer. I was so excited to work with her. Just meeting her, she was, as a mother also, she was just very welcoming, and very fun to work with, and just also knows what she wants. And when she was talking about wanting to work with Latinos and also women on the movie, I was like, wow, of course, this is what it's kind of like what I believe in as well. So, it's just, she's super inspirational, and the movie is super inspirational, and I couldn't say no.
So let's go to Katie, and building off of that, this
Mhm.
is such an inspirational story. Have you found that there are elements of the story that you carry with you after, like long, that it kind of trails you as you go through life?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, the most obvious one for me, I'm clearly not a Latino. I'm white, but I am an immigrant, and I did start sort of from the beginning and work my way to where I am now. And obviously, I'm not Richard Montanez, but I very much relate to that very, sort of being on the outside and like trying to get in, and also the movie plays a lot on family and family, connections and relationships and all of those things, and culture. And even though it's not a culture obviously that I am a part of, in the sense that I was not raised, or I'm Canadian and Belgian, so, but just that idea of culture through food and all of those things really resonate. And I think it's kind of what's so wonderful about this movie, is that it connects to so many different points that I feel like a lot of people will resonate with, whether it be, you know, uh, about class, about a marginalized group, about family, about, all of culture, all of food. It sort of hits on a bit of everything. And it's part of the reason why it's such a special movie to me, I think, and very inspirational.
Kayla, over to
Yeah.
you.
I mean, I agree. I think the movie is really impactful to me, and I think will be impactful to a lot of people, which is pretty great. I'm always drawn to the underdog story, the rags to riches storyline. And I think this movie, it really, I love that it encourages people to follow their passion and to believe in their ideas and work hard to achieve those goals. And I think it also can, it proves that with enough, determination and hard work, that any individual, no matter their background or circumstances, can make a big difference. And I find that to be really important.
Kayla, can you speak a little bit more about the the fact that it was a diverse team behind the camera as well? Like, I love having the three of you on the screen together. I love the fact that before we started, you were like, "Oh, I haven't seen you in so long." It felt a bit like a family reunion to me. Um, how was that? Did the dynamic that um probably Eva and her team had set up, did that enhance the project for you?
Oh, I mean, every project is different, but there was something really special about this one because I felt, all the people I encountered, and I'm sure a ton of people on set, we all really believed in this movie and the story, and we're championing Eva. And so I feel like there was just this infectious, I want to work really hard, and then this collaborator works really hard, and then I want to keep taking it one step farther. And it was such a positive experience for me collaborating. And, the communication was great, and support, and just, Katie, you and I had so many candid conversations, just throwing around ideas of, is this a crazy idea? Or what if the machine sounds like this? Or, how can we better tell this story? And so I think it felt really special, this movie, because everybody, they were really, on the same team. And we were really championing the story because it's important, and it's important that it's successful. So yeah, in my experience.
Vanessa?
I think Kayla said pretty much kind of what I feel as well about, just the diversity too. It's really cool. I mean, she was really pushing for diversity, and I really think that's pretty amazing.
Let's talk a little bit more about the music that scored Richard's life, as opposed to, or as in connection with, the music that scores the actual film. Was there any pushback or any moment where that tapestry kind of clashed for Richard and you had to work through it as a group? Because telling a story that is from nothing has its own complications, but telling someone's real life story when they're still alive and still able to say, oh, well, actually, that's not how it happened, or that's not something that would have occurred, that has its own set of challenges. Was there a moment like that?
Yeah, I mean, I did a lot of research in the beginning. Eva really wanted a Chicano anthem for the movie, and I didn't really have conversations with Richard. I mean, I actually have not had any conversations with Richard about music. I delved into different eras and different times of music, when he was a child, when he was a teen, growing up, so forth, throughout, time. And also sitting with Eva, a lot of the editing processes and music selections was quite difficult, because she also has a sound, right? Like, she's from San Antonio, and so she has also another sort of sound in her and vision in her head. I grew up in Southern California as a Latina, also kind of like Richard. Richard grew up in Southern California, so there's a lot of different eras and different moments in time throughout the movie. So it was kind of challenging. And I think that a lot of our meetings was trying to go through those eras and those moments and those times, and kind of think about what the sound was for his life and for growing up, for his, elementary school time, for his junior high, or for his, older time. I don't want to give anything away, but there are so many awesome musical moments in this movie. It was also interesting to work with a composer and trying to get that sound as well, because she wanted a lot of like a more guitar, mariachi, Mexican American sound. And, it's also kind of hard to make that a little bit more modern, a little bit more cool and hip, which the movie is. So it was challenging. And I think that we went through a lot of different sounds and selections with the composer, and also a lot of different songs. And there are a lot of songs in this movie, which is really fun too. And it made it so much more exciting. And the way Kayla edited it made it amazing.
Yeah. And Vanessa, staying with you for one more quick question, and then I'm going to circle back to Katie and Kayla with that same, like, any moments where Richard said, well, that's not how a Cheeto sounds, or wait a second. So Vanessa, a friend of mine is a music supervisor, and one of the things he talks about is he'll be in an environment and say, well, that's not the music that should be occurring right now.
Yeah, there was a few of those moments. I mean, interestingly enough, even I'm like very, very big on like time. So there was a moment where Eva wanted a song and I was like, well, that's not really what was there in 1984. So that was really hard because there are moments in the movie where the character specifically is in time, it's time stamped with a year, and you're listening to a song, and as a supervisor, and I think a lot of people who love music would know as well. And you're like, well, that song didn't come out till 1992, and and you see 1984 on the screen. So yes, there were challenges with that, and I think that we worked through those challenges really well. And it's also collaborative, right? So like Kayla will hear something and give feedback. I would hear something and give feedback. Eva would say, I really want this song. And, there's just this back and forth. And I think that's what was really helpful about it, is trying to mold it into, what the end product was. But yes, many times that happens.
I think if I just can quickly kind of chime in, Vanessa, the one that we held on to for so long was Insane in the Brain, right?
Yep. Yeah.
We had both the English version and the Spanish version, and we transitioned them, and it was for when Richard was in 1974, I think. And it was perfect for this montage, and we all loved it. And every so often somebody would say, oh, it didn't really come out till the early 90s, but it's so good. Do we care? And we had to ask that question enough times that eventually we were like, okay, we don't want to distract people, we don't want people to be thinking about, wait, this song doesn't, isn't appropriate for this time. So that was one of the harder replacements to find.
Yeah.
It was a journey, but in hindsight, it's exactly correct. It was the right choice. No regrets.
Exactly.
But that one was a journey.
Yeah.
And the music, the way that you guys bring us into the world right away, the Searchlight logo, and then suddenly you were talking about,
I don't know, Kayla, if you can comment. That was Eva, though. Eva really wanted that. And a lot of moments in this movie, she was very like, I need this, and this is what's going to happen. And we're like, okay, we'll make it happen. And we did with the composer, and she loved it. And it's a great intro. I love it.
It's one of my personal favorite things to see a fanfare that's tailored to a movie. It sets the tone so beautifully for this movie, especially just because it's like, all right, you know what you're in for now. Like, here we go.
Yeah.
I had the pleasure of going to South by Southwest and seeing it premiere with hundreds of people. And the minute that came on, everybody cheered and hollered. And it was kind of, it's cool to see,
Yeah, it's the portal that absolutely sets the stage for what's our reality going to be.
Yeah.
And it helps set up some of the fantasy sequences too, in a way.
Yeah.
Where like, this is hyper reality. I love it. So I want to get back to the question of if there was anything that was really challenging about the film version of the real life, and if there was pushback around the real life. But first, let's show the trailer. Let's give people an opportunity to see what it is that we keep referring to.
We all write our own stories.
Where is Richard? I'd like to speak to him. I'm here.
This time, that's me, the Mero Mero, Mr. Richard Montañez. I'm the guy who helped bring the world the most popular snack it's ever seen.
Are you ready? A huevo.
I've been ready. All right. It was a little bit more like this. Spicy? Yeah, see, that's how I got here.
Dear God, please forgive me for the gang,
The drugs, the stolen cars.
What the heck, man? Let's move it.
Hey, he is praying, pendejo. Go ahead, baby.
The guy started at the very bottom.
I know I don't look it, but I got a PhD. I'm poor, hungry, and determined, sir.
Okay, I can see you're gonna be a weird one.
What's happening?
Layoffs, son. Lots of them.
Frito-Lay isn't getting enough orders to keep the factory open.
Who eats Cool Ranch anyway? That lady.
Ow, wow, 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 wow.
What is it?
It burns.
Well, stop eating it.
No, I like it. It was good.
I had been searching for an answer. And there it was. They had been there the entire time.
I got an idea. It's a spicy chip. It's gonna change everything.
It will save our factory.
And you're a janitor.
No, hang on.
No one can kill you.
figure out the next step. Say, the Hispanic market will not be ignored.
The Hispanic market will not be ignored.
Good, but in your voice.
Why are we wasting time on this janitor's crazy idea?
Guys like you and me, we don't get shots like this.
You see that guy right there? I see a chingon, a montañez.
Yo soy montañez.
The montañez.
Get out there and be great.
We want to know that we matter to you. If we knew that there was a product out there for us, we'd say, take all our money, cabrones.
I got a little hood there at the end, but
Burns good or burns bad?
It burns good.
We also have the It Burns Good scene, so we'll play that a little later. Okay,
Which is apparently like trending on social media. I don't know.
really? It Burns
Yeah,
Good?
really cool. Yeah.
That's very cool.
Mhm.
And Richard Montañez is, well, he's retired now, but he was so smart in terms of the marketing. Almost any interview that you would see with him, he has the Flamin' Hot Cheetos and a Pepsi either in the foreground or beside him. So what this movie is going to do for Flamin' Hot Cheetos, it's going to be the pinnacle of his career.
Yep.
Okay, so Kayla,
Mhm.
anything that in like a pre-screening, or did the Montañez family have a chance to see this and say, "Whoa"?
You know, I think if I recall, they saw it for the first time, I think when it was about done. But I'm not quite sure. It was pretty close to done. But I think they've been in touch with Eva throughout the movie, and she's included them, and I'm pretty sure they knew about her approach of how they were going to tell the story. And so I don't know of any rumblings of any concern or anything like that. I know her and Devon, our producer, were very mindful of the family and the story of this man. And so I feel like they treated it with a high level of respect and sensitivity.
Yeah, that's clear. So I have like 40 different questions that are just flooding me all at the same time. One of the really cool things in the movie, if you've done the research, is you see Richard and Judy in one of the scenes, where they are being sold Flamin' Hot Cheetos. They're like being given them. It is Richard's story, but she plays such an important role in the real life story. And the way that you highlight her in the film, in the edit, I imagine that was also something that was from the get-go very important. Were there any moments where, Kayla, you were making decisions that was like, we need to be on her reaction, we need to see more of her point of view of this underdog, because she always had the belief in him, always.
She really did. And their love story is probably one of my favorite things about the movie. I think it's, and the family element too. I think it's something we can all relate to and is so heartwarming. Annie Gonzalez, she just is she was so good in that role that she made my job so easy. And, I think, Jesse Garcia, they just worked so well together that they were immediately believable. They were sincere, they had heart, they had humor. And so you just get sucked into their scenes. And so my job was to make sure that, the dailies shine so much, to make sure that translated to the edit. How I approach any scene is I watch the dailies and see kind of what makes me emote and kind of tear up, or and I try to use those moments throughout the scene, because if it impacted me, it's probably going to impact an audience. And so I just look for those nuances. And I mean, it was in the performances, and so it was just about finding the right balance and keeping, we never really changed her performance much, but we really emphasized when she stood up for him, or when she expressed that she was worried about something, that we understood that this is a beat and we didn't just try to keep everything equal. But Annie and Jesse just killed the roles and made my job very easy.
Yeah, there's a moment in the Montañez seniors backyard that it's so galvanized me for how important she is in his life, and the way that was put together was also very skillfully crafted.
Thank you. Yeah, that was a tricky one. It was shot twice because of, production. It just happens. And so, combining the right performances to build to that moment and to understand that conflict in the backyard too. And where Richard is emotionally with this, difficult relationship with his father. And, Judy is there, to support him and push him and encourage him. And she doesn't hesitate to just step in and have his back. And, I think it's a beautiful line which is, let's go put my voice in your head. And I feel there's just something so beautiful about the relationship. And then, the movie kind of takes a different relationship tone from there forward. It's like, all right, we're in this together. Let's do it. So yeah, that scene is a big one.
For me, that's the scene that I will carry with me. Do you all have a scene that just brings you so much joy?
I have so many, but go ahead.
Yeah, I've got one. I'd say for me, that is a big scene, but I think the one that I think almost every time I watched it through would get me a little choked up was the scene with the father. And, without giving too much of that away, just, a very realistic relationship between them. The acting was so fantastic, but it was also just the way that it was crafted was so heartfelt, and it really, it was restrained enough that it didn't wander into being, melodramatic or anything like that. And it really is just so simply put that you're just like, oh, and it really like tugs at your heartstrings. And, I just love that scene from a story perspective. I think it's such a beautifully done scene for sure. There's several, but that one for, whatever reason always gets me.
Vanessa?
I love the relationship between him and Judy, like Get Yourself a Judy, is really powerful. I think the woman behind him pushing him is just such a great story. And as Kayla said, their acting and their characters just really, it's so believable. It's such a good feel. And those were the two, both what Katie and Kayla said were the two things that I still cry every time I watch this movie. And there's like 3 scenes that I'm like, why am I crying again? Like, I know what's happening. Like, why am I watching this and crying again? And I feel like I'm going to cry in the next 2 times I see it. But the emotion between Judy and Richard, and then the scene with his father, it's like back to back, and it sends me, and I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And the final scene as well, I don't want to give that away, but that also makes me very emotional and very proud, and I want to like stand up and clap. And the boardroom scenes are just so hilarious.
Yeah.
And every time I watch them, I laugh again. And when we saw that at South by, everyone was laughing so hard you couldn't hear the next line, which I was like, that is what I wanted the audience to do. And they did it. And I was so happy for those boardroom scenes, because I think, honestly, I haven't, as a Latina, haven't seen a movie like this in a long time for Latinos. And it's just so inspiring to like feel that energy from the audience that I feel when I watch it, and to actually, see it in real life is really cool.
So I do want to give Katie a little bit of the spotlight here, because one of the things that's so beautiful but challenging about your work is no one's supposed to really notice it.
Yeah.
Right. If it stands out that there's a clear sound choice there, then that's probably it distracts from the flow of the movie. But that didn't happen here. The scene where they're actually making and failing and making and failing and then making and succeeding in finding the right recipe. I know what an incredibly heavy lift that must have been for you, but it doesn't feel as an audience member like you're listening to the secret sauce happening.
Right.
It just feels like you're experiencing that, and that is such a, again, a skillful, delicate but specific touch. Can you talk a little bit about that, and if there was another scene that was really challenging from a sound perspective, what, and I know you guys mentioned already, is this how this machine would sound?
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. But yes, it was certainly, especially with a movie like this where it's so subjective to Richard's story, but we still need to keep it grounded in reality so that, you're not pulling the audience out of what's going on. So with that in mind, I tried my best to keep every scene, especially these heightened scenes, in sort of step with the music, and also underlining the music in a way where it's not getting in the way of what's happening. But you're still getting a sense that it's there, like the sounds and everything going on. I think the big scene where Richard first comes to the factory and he's seeing all this machinery and everything at work, I think that was definitely the most challenging scene, because it's a very, both in the conceptual stages of editorial and also in mixing it, it's very challenging to have music going full tilt, have these impressive machines like making all kinds of unique sounds, and having a voiceover and having somebody talk. There's a lot of elements at play, so you really need to be pick and choose very carefully what the audience is hearing at any given moment. And one of the biggest ways to assist with that on the sound side is to make sure that, again, the dialogue and the music are not getting like trampled on by any sounds going on. So that was definitely the most challenging scene for me from a sound perspective, just because you want your moments with the machines, you want your moments with the factory sounds and the ambiances and all the busyness going by, but you also need to be very selective about where that is, and sort of be like a magician where, it's like a sleight of hand thing where it's like, look here, look here, look here. And that definitely takes some time to get right and figure out, especially like knowing, thankfully we had a good sense of what the music was going to be like before the mix. But once we got the final music and everything, the score, all that, and we were able to sort of align everything so that it doesn't sound like a jumbled mess. But yeah, that was definitely the most challenging scene. And Kayla and I went back and forth, quite a bit on how the machines would sound, in terms of like making them unique and not just sound like just like an engine hum, or, we tried to bring life to it and a character in itself. Because it kind of is. And so.
Oh, I think Katie froze there for a second.
Oh no.
Sorry. We heard, and so.
Shoot. I was off on a rant there. I think I was just I think really it was just that, that was certainly a very big undertaking, that scene, and definitely the most challenging for sound, and also the most fun for me, just from a sound designer's perspective, just making things feel unique and interesting without being distracting.
Did you have a chance to actually go to the floor and listen to the different machines, or this is all?
I actually, unfortunately, I didn't, but I did. Eva was very thorough about getting me. Thankfully, they had the forethought to record the machinery without the shoot going on. So I was able to get those things, and I was able to, she sent me some research videos of so I could get a sense of it. And then I basically, got all that in my brain and put it aside. And I was like, okay, knowing that, let's figure out how we can make it more interesting than just, a whir or like a just, something that's not really gonna register as movement. And that took a few tries to get right. So
Because there are emotional levels that are happening with the performance around each of those machines at different times. So when they're taking the brown ones off of the conveyor belt, and you know that something really interesting is about to happen and potentially life-changing, because we all kind of know what the movie is going into it. And then later when you're seeing the tumbler and the first time that the recipe is being adhered to the actual, Cheetos, the sound amplifies, the sound heightens the emotional stakes that are happening in that moment. It's really.
Oh, thank you. And Cheetos have a very distinct sound, so I had to come up with some creative recording methods to get it to really sound like Cheetos tumbling around rather than, something random.
To kind of go off what I was saying earlier about how everybody was so passionate about this movie, Katie, I remember you sending me a text message on the weekend of you on the soundstage with a mic and I think a garbage bag on the floor or something, and you're just pouring Cheetos and recording Foley, and you said your hands were just completely orange by the end of the day.
I had a whole box of latex gloves, and I used like half the box because they were all stained yellow, and I had put a huge tarp down, and it was a giant. It got everywhere, but I got lots of great sounds. So.
Because it's very specific, and then there's just certain shots where it's highlighting this product, and you don't want to just pick something generic. I mean, it's so important. So I think it really made a huge difference.
And it is one of the most popular snacks out there. So people know what they sound like. It has to be right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So Kayla, and then again, we're going to sweep around the horn with the same question. The fantasy sequences, those kind of hyper realistic moments, those moments where he's telling you something in a way that he wishes it would have happened, versus when we snap back into the reality. Talk a little bit about the process around those and how you guys collaborated and worked together.
Yeah, I mean, those sequences are some of my favorite. I think it brings so much personality to the movie, and kind of an insight into who Richard is and his way of thinking. But it was really important to Eva and I to balance the reality and the whimsical, because we didn't want people to know what was coming, but we didn't want them to be too confused. So, we just always, paid attention to the edit, but then we also used devices like, sound or imagery to make sure we had people where we wanted them. So, for example, and this was on the script level, Richard as a child at the market, it flashes to him in a black and white 50s sitcom. This isn't real, but you're enjoying the information. Richard in the cafeteria, and Enrico starts speaking to him through the TV. I know, Katie, we spent a lot of time finding that right balance of the soundscape, kind of getting sucked out, kind of subtly, but then you feel the emptiness, and then, all of a sudden there's like a layer of reverb on the audio, and then it's gone. And so we kind of use those things to keep people grounded, but not being so overtly, this is a fantasy.
Katie, do you want to
Oh,
comment?
yeah, sorry. Yeah, I mean, everything that Kayla said, I think we were very mindful on the sound side to, I think with maybe the exception of the TV, the sort of Leave It to Beaver skit, I think we really were mindful to, in the heightened moments, sort of subtly pull the sound away and then bring it when we snap back to reality so that you feel, even if you don't pick it up, you kind of.
Katie's Katie's frozen once again, but we did get the bulk of that.
Okay, sorry.
That was the end of your sentence. Don't worry.
Okay.
Vanessa, were those sequences something that you enjoyed the challenge of, or you didn't find them challenging at all? Like, oh, this is old hat, I can do this.
Yeah, I mean, they weren't really challenging. It was more so just finding the right sound, like in like the Leave It to Beaver moment and, the music and, just pretty much working with Kayla or Eva who would request, I really would love this kind of song right here. What do you think would work here? And, we would just collaborate on, again, what you would hear in those moments. And I think that was, it wasn't really quite challenging, those moments.
I mean,
But it was fun.
Those movies allowed us to play with music. I feel more now that I'm thinking back to it, when Richard is, visualizing, attacking his coworker with a mop. We played much more, I don't know what kind of rock music.
It was like a metal song. Yeah.
A metal song,
yeah.
Which, again, not the sound that we've established for the movie. And then, when he's meeting Enrico for the first time and we're, using slow motion to really kind of, again, enhance this reality, it's kind of this ethereal cue, which again is not, something we've established. And so it allowed us to kind of play with the music, which was really fun.
So, we do have one other scene from the movie, which I think would be fun to play. And then I have a specific question about your own personal experiences after that. Let's play what's trending apparently on social media. Burns So Good.
Ow, burn!
Burns good or burns bad?
It burns good.
And I love how you can hear him continuing to just munch on those Cheetos.
Oh,
yeah. Your first time experiencing a flaming hot Cheeto because you were a part of the movie. Did you have that same reaction? Vanessa, we're going to start with you. Did it burn so good?
I choked. I literally choked. I was like out of breath, kind of choking, needed water. Sort of more like Enrico's experience in his office. But it's like that weird, okay, I got to try it again just to make sure, and then you're like, oh yeah, I got to try it again. It's like, they are addicting. I like them now, I wouldn't eat them every day. Obviously they're not, in my healthy diet, but they're good. They're tasty. They're a tasty treat.
One of the moments that I'm sure was intended to be comical, because it made me, as a lover of film, this choice made me laugh out loud, and it spoke so deeply to the success of this moment in the film. Kayla, when you chose to start on the close-up of Enrique's fingers that are just covered in the flaming hot dust as he's calling Richard, tell me about that moment.
I mean, best shot of the film. I can't take any credit for how amazing that shot is, but it clearly, it's so impactful when you see that. Yeah. And we had to try and extend it as much as possible because we knew audiences were reacting to it and we didn't want them to lose that next line. I've been frequently eating flaming hot Cheetos because they are very addicting. And now I have this whole love for spice. which is, a fun result of the movie. But the other day, random, I was eating Cheetos and I looked at my fingers. I was like, oh yeah, this is exactly what it looked like in that shot. And so it was props to, being really realistic. I'm sure it was, in the moment too.
So, Katie, first time that you had Flamin' Hot Cheetos, and then the millions of Flaming Hot Cheetos that had been around you when you were recording.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a similar, I think, to Vanessa, where I was like, oh man, that's, it just sort of hits you. And then you have a drink of water and then you're like, I gotta have another one. And before you know it, the bag's done. So, and then, yeah, I think I maxed myself out on Cheetos for a little while after that in the course of recording, because it was like, one for the show, one for the doctor, one for the show, or we'd be breaking between recordings and I just start eating them. Like, I gotta stop doing this. But yeah, I get them with some amount of regularity now. It's funny because it's one of those things, like, I wouldn't say I'm super hot spicy stuff isn't necessarily my thing, but so at first I was just kind of like, I don't think I'm gonna like them, but it definitely, it's got a huge punch of flavor to it, and I think that's why it's like, you have it and then you're like, actually that's good, I'm gonna have more. So yeah.
So I'm gonna step away from Flamin' Hot for just a moment, and we will come back to it in a second. I'd love to know what's up next for you guys, because you have we've done a little bit of additional research, and you guys all have amazing careers. We can see the statues that are hanging out behind Katie there.
Not flexing.
Flex, girl.
Humble brag, humble brag.
Absolutely.
What's up next? What are you excited about? What projects are in the shoot, as they say? We'll start with Vanessa.
This is actually one of my first big films. I've worked on some indies, but I have been working in the motion picture advertising space for over 25 years. So I've been working as a music supervisor for movie trailers for a while now. And I've been freelancing for a long time, but I but I've come to start working full-time with a company called Transit in Culver City. And we work on all sorts of projects, which is really fun. So, it's a lot of music supervision in a short amount of time. Definitely a different than film. But they are very open to me working on more movie projects. So I'm excited to take on more movies, hopefully after this comes out. But I work every day on different movies, and it's so much fun. I get to watch, The Little Mermaid, and get to work on Fast X, and some fun stuff we've been working on. A lot of like Hulu, Netflix movies, shows as well. And it's exciting because I get to see all sorts of different movies that I love and work on the music. So it's exciting.
Kayla, let's go to you. What's next?
Nothing at the moment. I just finished a job in New York, which was great. I was there for several months. Happy to be back in sunny LA. And just always open for the next project that, speaks to me. I am really drawn towards movies like Flaming Hot. I'm a feel-good kind of girl. I also like, darker things because it requires me to use a different set of tools, which is fun to be able to kind of jump around. But yeah, I hope whatever comes in the future is, as wonderful and fulfilling as this experience has been. I think who you work with is, and the story behind it is, it's just so important to the everyday. We can't control what happens when the movie's done, but I feel that I've always aligned myself with finding the projects that make me happy on the everyday and continue to feel inspired. And so, I've been very lucky over the past few years to find amazing people and wonderful projects. And so I'm hoping the next one has that same magic.
Our audience totally understands the importance of a crew as a community and as a family.
Yeah.
That you are spending oftentimes more time with those people than with your own family, and to have wonderful people that you look forward to working with and collaborating with and creating with, it makes all the difference.
It really does.
Yeah.
So Katie, over to you. Speaking of sometimes working on darker things, tell us a little bit of Humble Brag and what you're working on.
I got a couple of things right now. I think the big thing I'm doing is I'm working on there's a new Lion King movie coming out next year about Mufasa. It's called Mufasa. I'm just almost through a Apple TV series called Sugar, which is like a film noir TV mini series with Colin Farrell. And I am also just on the beginnings of supervising a movie for next Christmas with McG. I don't know if you guys know who that is, but
McG is a big supporter of MPTF. Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, he's great. But it's sort of like a comedy family type movie with the Christmas themes in it. It's very McG, a lot of fun, very funny. So
are you working with Mary Viola?
I don't know. It's really early in the process, so I'm not too sure.
She's one of the producers with McG. So
nice. It's possible. It's possible. We've only done a spotting session so far, so I'm sure I'll see more of everybody soon. But and then at some point, with everything up in the air right now, obviously with the WGA strike, but at some point next year, hopefully Stranger Things 5. But we'll see. How things push.
Okay, so in the last little bit of time that we have, I do want to congratulate you all on the success of Flamin' Hot in advance of the success of Flamin' Hot, even though it was welcomed and totally applauded at South by Southwest. Opened June 9th in our theaters on June 11th, but we ask everybody one very difficult question before they're allowed to leave the creative chaos space.
Right.
Because we are the Motion Picture and Television Fund and have been serving the entertainment community for over 100 years, we are always curious to know what your favorite movie and your favorite TV series are. So I will vamp for another moment to give you a second to think about favorite movie, favorite television. And you're not locked into this. You can change your mind tomorrow. MPTF is excited about our future as we look into the next 100 years. We have a telethon that we're doing on KTLA. This is our second annual telethon coming up in December. We only are able to support people in the entertainment industry by getting support from the entertainment industry. So those that find themselves with the ability to donate, we are always grateful for any size donation. Okay. Now that I've done the little MPTF elevator speech, let's go to Kayla, our editor first. Favorite film, favorite television series. Go!
I find this question very funny because whenever somebody asks me, I immediately blank. It's almost as I have never seen a movie or a TV show. So I'm just going to go with it. There's a lot of favorites, obviously. I kind of, as I mentioned before, I'm a feel-good kind of girl. I have, a lot of respect for all types of movies, but the ones I always put on are kind of guilty pleasures. So the first two that kind of come to mind right now is Top Gun 1 and 2.
Okay.
And then I'll as far as TV, again, feel good. I'm not a stranger to putting on the Great British Bake Off.
Yes!
After a long day.
That is the first time anyone has said that on this show, and I am addicted.
I love all seasons,
Yes.
all hosts, all contestants, you know, and then, you know, there's some of the
British Bake Off
seasons.
Juniors, British Bake
Yeah,
Off for the
of course.
professionals, all about it.
Holidays.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you. We're gonna go to Katie. Katie, what's your favorite TV show and favorite movie?
Kayla's gonna laugh because she knows what my favorite movie is. It's definitely Jurassic Park, hands down. Jeff Goldblum plus amazing everything, really amazing writing, directing, acting, sound design is unbelievable, visual effects, everything. It's just, to me, it's a perfect movie. I'd say close behind that.
I was gonna say, are you in Los Angeles?
I am, yes.
So the Mildred Pierce Orchestra, that's Jeff Goldblum's.
Oh, I've seen it. I've been to his live shows. I'm a huge Jeff
amazing.
Goldblum fan. It's so good. I went to his, when he would do his jazz sets at the Rockwell. I went to that a couple of times too. Yeah. It was great. I would say just to throw in a close second, the Lord of the Rings trilogy is up there. I'm a huge high fantasy dork, so that's very, very close second for me for movies. And then for whatever reason, when you said TV show, the first thing that comes to my mind, I think just based off of the frequency of times I've seen it and the sound, and just the whole thing in general, Band of Brothers is probably.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those things I could put it on at any time and rewatch it. It's just so incredible. The sound choices in it are incredible. I mean, it's just everything about it is just top tier. And then I'd say close behind that, just recently, because again, I'm a huge high fantasy nerd. I think House of Dragon is making its way up very quickly in my roster for sure. Again, like I'm very, very obviously very biased towards sound. So like that's a show where sound is, obviously a big factor with all the dragons.
It's very interesting that you say that because we've talked over the last, 3.5 years with such an incredible variety of people, and almost none of them have answered, well, because of what I do. Like, are you able to take that hat off and just enjoy it? Or it sounds like you can't. Like, it has to have.
I know exactly what you mean, and I am really good at shutting it off and not being analytical when I watch things. But I do think it's something that draws me in, even if it's not the best movie for whatever reason. It's, there's a weak link in there, whether it's the writing, the directing, whatever it might be. If it has a good score and it has good sound design in it, it's gonna sell me. It's gonna throw me a little, because I'll really feel a sort of connection to it in that sense. But I definitely, people have asked me that a lot, and I'm always pretty quick to tell them, like, I have no problem shutting it off too, unless it's a bad movie, and then I can't help it. Then I just start picking it apart. But if I'm really sucked into a movie, I'm not thinking about the sound.
Yeah,
I'm just feeling it. So,
and that sound is such a critical. Like, if the sound is bad, it takes everybody out.
Yeah.
Everybody out. You can forgive like a weird color choice because it's a choice, right? But bad sound, yeah. All right, sorry. We're almost out of time. So Vanessa,
quick. I'm kind of like with Kayla, where I have these guilty pleasures, and I always say Weird Science is one of my favorite movies.
Love that.
Nice. Life-changing movie for me though was Dances with Wolves, and it's still like one of my favorite movies. And then in terms of shows as well, as like guilty pleasure, Sex and the City was huge for me. But I loved Game of Thrones. I was obsessed with Game of Thrones until the ending. And The Wire. The Wire was one of my like really favorite TV shows that just stuck with me, and I will watch over and over again. It's one of those that are really, really good.
Yeah, you are in very good company with The Wire. Lots of people have said The Wire. Well, we are out of time. I am so grateful. This hour just flew by. Thank you so much for being with us. And wishing all the success for Flaming Hot and for all of you individually. Come back, come out for a tour, come meet some of the people who live here. And again, thank you guys so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Welcome. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.